Hello, my friends. So, today I just watched a video by Varg Vikernes of the channel Thulian Perspective about these destructive lies, these dangerous, destructive lies that the anti-white, anti-Europeans are using against European culture to erase their history, to tell us things like, Europe was never white, the Romans were black, and the Greeks were black, and the British were black, or Muslim, or Turkish, or whatever, the lies that they're telling, that Europe was never truly an ethno-state, a proto-ethno-state, so to speak. They want to erase that history, so that by erasing that history, you won't have anything to preserve or defend. You won't have any grounding for your own virtue. You won't have any grounding for your own authority either. Your own authority to say, no, that this is not your country, this is our country, and we reject you and your ideas. What authority do you have to stand on if you never had a country to begin with? If you never had values to begin with? If this is just something you're making up? So they need you to accept that. They need you to forget your history. And I think Varg made a really good point in that video about how this isn't something new. This is not a new tactic. The erasure of history, the destruction of historical images, the destruction of historical relics, sacred locations, everything, things that used to keep history for people, have been targets for every Abrahamic religion that has ever existed. I mean, it goes all the way back to Exodus, where God commanded the Jews to break down the altars and smash the sacred stones, the sacred pillars, cut down their sacred poles and sacred groves and whatnot. This is 100% prescribed by the Hebrew Abrahamic God, and it manifests itself in all three branches of this Abrahamic cult: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And I think in this video I'm going to show you a couple of examples, some of the most shocking examples really throughout history of this happening to people. And the first example that I want to show you is the Uyghur people. That is Uighur, or Uyghur. And the Uyghur were Buddhists who lived in the northwestern region of modern China, just northeast of the Taklamakan Desert. And they were sort of a hybrid, Mongoloid, Indo-European type people. The original Uyghurs were Mongoloid, but they mixed with the Tokharians, and the Tokharians, as seen in these cave murals from like the 6th century, they were fair-skinned with red hair. At least that's how they were represented in these images. And these people created these wonderful shrines, or these temples really, carved into the sides of deserts. And they were Buddhist. And these Buddhist temples had tons of beautiful frescoes and images painted on the walls, and murals, and it's so colorful, and the pictures were lifelike, and it detailed their history, and it told all of these things about their culture and their history. And the caves that I'm referring to in particular are the Bezeklik 1,000 Buddha caves. If you want to look those up, I'll put a link. But they were around for hundreds of years, and they were extremely well developed. Beautiful cave murals and art, and It's basically one huge complex. And this was obviously, a place of worship, and it was a sort of a religious, significant religious site for these people for hundreds of years. Until the fucking Muslims came in, and I'm just going to read to you from Wikipedia here because it's interesting how they put it. So, the Buddhist Uyghurs of the kingdom of Kocho and Turfan were converted to Islam by conquest during a ghazat, a holy war, a jihad, at the hands of the Muslim Chagatai Khanate ruler Khizr Koya. And this was during the 14th century, 1389 to 1399. After being converted to Islam, the descendants of the previously Buddhist Uyghurs in Turfan failed to retain memory of their ancestral legacy and falsely believed that the infidel Kalmuks, this other ethnic group in the region, were the ones responsible for building the Buddhist monuments in the area. Anti-portrait, meaning anti-representation, the Muslims who, are commanded by Allah to destroy any images, they had Buddhist portraits obliterated during the wars over hundreds of years in which Buddhism was replaced by Islam. Cherry-picking of history with Xinjiang with the intention of projecting an image of irreligiosity or piousness of Islam in Uyghur culture has been done by people with agendas. Michael Dillon wrote that the 1000 to 1100 Islam Buddhist war are still recalled in the forms of the Khotan Imam Asim Sufi shrine celebration and other Sufi holy site celebrations. The Bezeklik's Thousand Buddha Cave are an example of religiously motivated vandalism against the portraits of religious and human figures. The murals at Bezeklik have suffered considerable damage. Many of the murals were damaged by local Muslim population whose religion prohibited figurative images of sentient beings. The eyes and mouths in particular are often gouged out. So, and a lot of this still remains because they weren't, they couldn't destroy it all, but they tried their hardest to destroy it all, and it's a damn shame that they were able to do this. But I'm just amazed by the fact that these people were Buddhist for hundreds of years, probably close to 1,000 years by the time that this actually happened in the 1300s. So for close to 1,000 years these people are Buddhist, and then within just a couple generations they fail to retain the memory of their ancestral legacy, even with these shrines in existence. These shrines are still existing, and yet they go to the shrines and they're convinced in their own heads that their ancestor did not build that it was some other people that did that. That's how thorough the brainwashing was. It's kind of freaky when you think about it. I mean, I'm sure this has happened in other places. This is just one example I'm giving. And that's Islam. And Christianity too. I mean, you think of people like Martin of Tours was a dedicated destroyer of pagan temples and sacred trees in Europe. And Sulpicius Severus, a historian who wrote a biography of Martin of Tours, said, "Wherever he destroyed heathen temples, there he used immediately to build either churches or monasteries. And when Benedict took possession of the site at Monte Cassino, he began by smashing the sculpture of Apollo and the altar that crowned the height." And it's just common that the Christians would come into an area, destroy all their sacred sites, and then build Christian sites on top of it. They would even change the place names of geographical features, and they would take cultural artifacts and reinterpret them as Christian. They would, obviously they changed even like the days of the week and the calendar, and it's truly amazing that this absolute erasure of the native local culture and reinterpretation of it as Christian or Muslim or Jewish is pretty much central to the commandments given by God in the Old Testament. I mean, how many times did he tell the Jews to go into an area and spare? Didn't he punished one of the kings of Judea for not killing every single inhabitant of the area? And I guess like over the years they got smarter and smarter, realizing, oh, we can't just kill them all, we're going to have to enslave them somehow. So how do we get them to stay slaves? Oh, we destroy their history, we destroy their culture, and we tell them that their ancestors were either idiotic barbarians who didn't know anything, or they were Christian, just like us, so you should listen to us. And that is honestly how a lot of people think about European history today. If you just took like a 5th grade course in history, which is pretty much what most people have, it's where their level of understanding of history is at, is pretty much a 5th grade level, you'll get the impression that in the ancient world, there was Greece and there was Rome and there was nothing else. And the only thing that the Germans ever did, or the Celts, or the Norse, the only thing that these people ever did was rape and pillage and destroy and plunder, and that it was the wonderful, beneficent, civilizing force of the Greeks, the Romans, and of course the Christians in Europe that made us so wonderful. And that if it wasn't for them, especially if it weren't for the Christians, man, we'd still be living in the caves. So, I just wanted to give that one example about the Bezeklik caves, because that's so fascinating to me. They're Buddhist for over 1,000 years, or close to 1,000 years, whatever it is. And after just a couple centuries of Muslim rule, they can't even remember that these giant shrines, these massive Buddhist complexes, they can't even remember that those were built by their forebears. So, I mean, this is the kind of thing we're up against. Why do you think the liberals are allying with the Muslims? Because if there is one religion in the world that can overcome local and ethnic differences and force everybody together into one submission, it's Islam. Islam covers every single aspect of your life, every single aspect of civilization. Sharia is like, it's like a full life plan, really. I mean, it's like a daily plan, a weekly plan. It's everything is covered by Sharia. And so if there's any doctrine that is so complete in its tyranny of the soul, it's Islam. And you need that complete tyranny to get different races to actually work together, because if we're left to our natural instincts, obviously we don't get along together. But I much prefer the instincts to a piece of cognitive technology that forces everybody into extreme conformity and submission. I'd much rather have the instincts. I'd much rather have Mother Nature guiding me than Muhammad. So, alright, that's about it. Thank you for watching.